Next, we'd like to talk about how to create a sequence of steps. So in the previous video, we talked about using the RGBFX and MFX to create generated chases. Well, in ENlighten, you can also create manually create the steps of a sequence that you would like. So let me bring up the 3D visualizer here. Let's start with the baby colors. We're going to go ahead and hit clear all to make sure we have a good starting point. We're going to select our baby colors. We'll initialize the fixtures. We'll set the first color to green, and then I'll press record plus. That basically records that green scene into step 1. I'm going to go ahead and hit magenta and hit record plus, and then I'll hit white and record plus. So if I use my forward and backward navigation, you can see I can step through the 3 steps that I created, and if I hit play, I'll fade between the 3 steps that I created. If I uncheck fade scenes, you will notice that the colors don't fade, and again, if I hit fade scenes, now I'm fading between those 3 scenes that I created. While the scene is running, if I change the slider here, I will change the fade time for each of the steps, so I can slow them down or I can speed them up. If you need more than 3 seconds fade time, you can click here on the fade up time and enter it on the calculator there. So that will change the fade time for all the steps as long as the chase is running. One other thing to mention, I can have this chase stop at the last step or even at the second step if I wanted to. So I can step through step 1, 2, and 3, and you'll notice my auto go is on. That indicates that once this step has faded into it, will it go to the next scene. So if I undo auto go and hit play, I'll go through step 1, then I'll go through step 2, and then I'll go to step 3, but you'll notice at that point the chase will stop and it won't go back around. So the auto go is a cool feature in using chases. I'm going to go ahead and save this button. You save it just like all other buttons. I'll just call this auto go. I'm going to fade it in 1 second, save it, and auto position it. So again, it is kind of a long fade, but it's going to do the 5-second fade to magenta, and then a 5-second fade to yellow, and then it's going to stop. And again, the reason it's stopping is because we turned auto go off on step 3. We can also do create sequences of steps for moving lights. So I'm going to select my spot bots, initialize them, and then I can position them. So actually I'm going to position them all back there, hit record plus, and then let's try there, record plus. So again, when I step between those 2 and I hit play, then the software fades between those 2 scenes that I've created. And you'll notice that on my fade time, step 1 has a 1-second fade time and step 2 has a 5-second fade time. If I wanted to make them equal, I could just move the slider while it's chasing, and now I have the look bouncing up and down there. We'll call this steps 2 and fade in and fade out. One other thing to note when you're using steps in a chase, if you'll notice here we have our edit scene button, and we can copy and paste scenes and insert scenes if we needed to. So if we created a look in step 1 that we want to duplicate in step 3, we can insert that scene, copy and insert that scene. Insert blackout scene allows you to insert a blackout scene to get a light in position. So let's illustrate that real quick. We're going to select our spot bots. We're going to place them there. I'm going to press record plus. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is select insert blackout scene. So what will happen there is ENlighten will automatically create a 2-step chase. Step 1 has auto go on and the lights get into position. Step 2 actually turn on the lights. So that is how you use insert blackout scene, and I'm going to call this position, crossfade in and out. And so basically what happens here is in dark, the lights move to the position, and then step 2 turns the lights on. One thing to mention about that, since we've briefly touched on it, we want to talk about a setting here that can be very useful in theater and doing stage type productions. You want to go to your settings and then go to your advanced tab, and you want to make sure pan and tilt tracking mode is checked. What that means is when we hit clear all, you will notice that the fixture just stays where it's at. It won't reset back to center or home. So again, in settings, if you go to advanced, you'll see you want to enable pan and tilt tracking mode so that you have the lights not moving, unexpectedly or not for any good reason. They will always stay in the last position you set them. So that covers creating a sequence of steps for ENlighten training.